Hey there, welcome back to the Clarity to CEO podcast. My name is Philippa. I'm the host here. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever told yourself, I just need to be more consistent? And then a week goes by. Life happens. Life is lifing. Business is happening, family's happening, and suddenly that consistency that you had planned for yourself disappears again. Yeah, you're not alone. If you've been there, done that, I promise you, you're not by yourself. And today we're going to be talking about why that keeps happening to us and what, more importantly, how to fix it in a way that actually works for your life and for your business. Of course, before we dive in, I want to connect a few dots for you. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I need structure, I need a system, I need something that actually holds me accountable, that's exactly what I'm building in the Strategic Marketing Mastermind. This is where we take everything I teach here and actually implement it with support, structure, and with a CEO level strategy. And the best way to see if this is the right fit for you is to attend the free Strategic Marketing Canvas workshop. That session is going to help you get the clarity for your messaging, lock in your focus, and build a 90-day direction that you can actually follow, and it's not overwhelming. And from there, you'll know if you're ready for the next level inside the actual mastermind. Right, so quick note, also, my book, When Clarity Leads, is coming out very soon. And when you pre-order or when you buy the book, you're going to get access to my new 4-part companion course. It's the CEO Shift. This is where I help you apply these concepts in real time. All right, so let's talk about this inconsistency that we're all facing. Firstly, you need to recognize that you're redeciding your strategy every single week. If you're trying to come up with a pattern and it's not sticking, and then you come up with a new pattern and it's not sticking, that's redeciding your strategy every week, and that is not going to be sustainable. So let's start with what's actually happening behind the scenes. When you say you're inconsistent, what you're often experiencing is this cycle. Every week, you sit down and ask yourself, what should I post about? What should I talk about? What matters most right now? And what do I even feel like saying? And that constant reevaluating and reevaluation of what you're doing is exhausting. What you may not realize is that inconsistency is often the result of too many decisions happening at one time and not a lack of discipline. It's not a discipline problem that you're having. When you don't have a clearly defined strategy, meaning your messaging, your audience, your content themes, and your priorities are not locked in, you end up starting from scratch every single time you're going to do a post. So there's one week that you're going to feel clear and productive, and then the next week you're feeling stuck and avoidant. That's not a strategy. That is being very reactive and responsive. So here's what to do instead. You need to reduce the amount of decisions you make weekly by just making more decisions upfront. This looks like defining 3 to 4 core content themes that you're going to rotate through, and just stick with those for that quarter. Choosing 1 to 2 platforms to focus on. You don't need to be everywhere all the time. And then deciding how often you realistically can show up. You also want to clarify what your content is meant to lead people towards. You may have a lot of things going on in your business, many different entry points into your business. We need to simplify that and give your content one main focal point to lead people to. When those decisions are made in advance, your weekly tasks become execution, not reinvention every single time. And that's where consistency starts to feel a little easier. The next thing you want to think about is that you're relying on motivation instead of structure. This is how you're showing up. You're really relying on being motivated to create that content instead of having that structure that you were working towards. Many entrepreneurs unintentionally build their content process around how they're feeling. So this sounds like I'll post when I have time, I'll create when I feel inspired, or I'll go back consistent next week. Those are just feelings and hopes and wishes. When in the reality, motivation is not a reliable business strategy. There are going to be weeks when you're busy with clients, your energy may be low, life is demanding more of you, especially if you've got, spouse, family, kids. You have a lot on your shoulders, and you can't determine what each week is going to look like if you're relying on that motivation and feelings. So if your content system depends on you feeling ready, it's going to fall apart during those moments. So here's what you can do instead. You need to treat content creation as part of your operational rhythm, not your emotional state. This means blocking and dedicating time for your content creation each week, protecting that time like you would a client meeting, and creating even when you don't feel like it because it's scheduled. That's how CEOs show up and get it done. This is a shift from I'll show up when I can to I'm going to show up because it's part of my business and how I run my business. That is the CEO level shift. Next, you want to think about your expectations and how they don't match up with your capacity. This is one of the biggest reasons I see that consistency starts breaking down for many of my clients. You're trying to operate at a level that doesn't match your current reality. You might be thinking, I should be posting every single day, or I should be on multiple platforms, or I should be doing more video, more emails, or more social consistently. But your actual capacity may look like managing clients, running your household, building your efforts, handling the back-end operations. And when your expectations are higher than your capacity, you create a cycle of overcommitment, falling behind, feeling discouraged, and you stop completely. We don't want to set yourself up for failure. You need to define what consistency looks like for your current season, not anyone else's, not what you've read on. Maybe you read like a guide that tells people how many times they should post. That is not your measuring stick. Your measuring stick should be what your current season is and what your reality is. So ask yourself, how many pieces of content can I realistically create each week? How much time can I actually dedicate to this without burning out? And what pace can I sustain for the next 90 days? Then you want to commit to that level. Consistency is not about doing the most. It's about doing what you said you would do repeatedly without that burnout, without the guilt. Right? So the next thing we have to think about is that we don't have a repeatable content workflow. This is where we start to get a little practical and put things into perspective. If your content process looks like think of something, write it down, post it, repeat, you're going to feel stuck often. Our creativity levels are going to be, it's a wave. You never know where you're creative. Just like your feelings, you don't know when you're going to be in your most creative mode. So if you're waiting for that creativeness to spark and for you to think of something and then have the capacity of wherever you thought about it, because you may be in the shower, you may be driving. So you got to think about it, write it down, post it, and then repeat it each week. You're going to fall into traps and you're going to feel stuck because there's no structure guiding you from the idea to the execution. A consistent business runs on repeatable processes. So here's what you can do if you fall into that bucket. I want you to build a simple weekly workflow that you can follow every single time. Step 1 is idea capture. Going on a list of content ideas throughout the week and pulling from client conversations, questions, and real life experiences. This is where you're capturing your ideas and keep an ongoing log where you could always pull from. And even if you don't think of it as, okay, I have an ongoing log, I pull one and I do a post about it and then you delete it. Like, no, you don't delete it. You keep that idea on your list because you can always come back and create additional content from that idea. One post may not be enough to get the point across. So you have that ongoing running list where you're always going to have that inspiration to pull from. Step 2 is the planning process. And this is, again, based off your realistic capacity, where your frequency is. You want to choose 2 to 3 ideas you're going to focus on and align them with the content themes and your current offers. What's going on with your business? What's your business goals? And what are you currently offering your clients? Step 3 is the creation. This is when you're actually putting the pen to the paper. You're writing or you're recording your content in one focused session. And this is where you can batch your content, which I think is amazing. So if you have dedicated and you said, yes, I can make 5 pieces of content each week, it doesn't make sense to create each one every day. You can batch your content and create all of your content maybe Monday morning and schedule out. So have a time set aside where you can write or record your content in one focused session. And then avoid switching between tasks. When you have your content creation time blocked out in your schedule, keep it focused, keep it sacred so you can really dedicate that time and not get distracted, because a lot of times we're in creative mode during that and anything distracting us can bump us right out of that flow. And it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get back in there. So hold that time sacred and keep it focused. And step 4 is the publishing. This is where you can, thankfully, if you're batching your content, you can schedule or post your content at the planned times. So many of the platforms, I believe Meta allows you to post content out 28 days in advance. I think LinkedIn is even further. That's the beauty of being able to create content on these platforms and schedule it out ahead of time. So you don't need to wait and, have those reminders to post it each day. You can batch it. You can create it, batch it, schedule it out, not have to think about it, wait till it goes live and respond to the comments then. And then that leads to that engagement, step 5. Even if you've scheduled the content out, it doesn't end there. You still want to show up and be social and engage. So set a small window, again, on your calendar where you can make time to respond to comments or messages based on the content you're receiving, or that you can reach out and respond to other people's content and build those relationships online. That's a huge part of gaining awareness for your business and also making the most out of the content that you're sharing. The goal is not perfection here. The goal is predictability and creating systems that can really support you showing up consistently. When your brain knows what the next step is, resistance starts to decrease and it's less stressful and you can actually execute a lot more. The last step in this process is understanding that your content isn't anchored to, if your content isn't anchored to a clear strategy, it's going to be really tough to execute consistently. This is the deeper layer that most people miss. If your content is feeling disconnected from your business goals, it's always going to feel optional, like you don't have to do it. So take a look at, what are your current business goals? What are you working on to achieve in your business? And how can we create content that gets our audience to do and respond in the way that helps us reach our business goals? And so when something feels optional, that's the first thing that gets dropped. If your content feels disconnected from your business goals, it's always going to feel optional. And when something feels optional, that's the first thing that gets dropped from your priorities and from your execution. And so if your content isn't clearly tied to your offer, to your audience, to your revenue goals, whatever your goals are, it's going to feel like extra work instead of essential work. So instead, what you want to start doing is start connecting your content directly to your business outcomes. Ask yourself a few questions. What am I currently selling or promoting? What does my audience need to understand before they buy or before they hire you? What objections do I need to address to help people make the better decisions to work with you? And what beliefs need to shift, either within me or with my audience, that I can create content around and help them overcome beliefs or understand these beliefs so they can make the right decisions to say, yes, this is the person I want to work with. Then you're going to create the content that supports those answers. When your content becomes part of your sales process, it no longer feels optional. It's something that you need to do essentially for your business. It's necessary to get to that next step, to get to those sales. You have to remember, consistency, again, is not about willpower. All of us are smart and capable women running amazing businesses. Our capabilities, our willpower is not the issue. It's about clear decisions, having structured time, realistic expectations, creating those repeatable processes that don't drive us crazy, and having some strategic alignment. When those are all in place, your consistency becomes a natural byproduct, and it's not a constant struggle, making content creation so much more easier and so much more predictable and helpful for our business. So if you're ready to stop starting over every single week and finally build a system that supports your visibility and your revenue, please come join me in the free Strategic Marketing Canvas workshop. This is your starting point into the Strategic Marketing Mastermind, where we will take everything we talked about today and actually build it into your business. And don't forget, When Clarity Leads, that's my new book. It's dropping very soon. I want you to make sure that you're on the list to get notified when it's available, because when you grab your copy, you're also going to get access to the CEO Shift. That's my 4-part companion course that's going to help you implement these changes right away. Next week, I'm going to be walking you through the actual tools that I use to streamline my marketing, and you're going to want to take notes. Until then, keep leading with clarity, keep shining, and I will see you then.